live. So let me know if you can see and hear me out there. I'd certainly appreciate that to get things started. And then we'll get going with this. If you can see and hear me, this is not a problem with your set or anything like that, or with your video that you're watching. And no, it's not Monday night. This is Saturday night, a special show that I'm doing tonight. It is the day after St. Patty's Day. So people are still kind of recovering from that a little bit. But it's also the day that I could get my guest on here and be able to have him on as a guest and talk about some things on here. And we've already got Pete is over here saying that he can see and hear me. Excellent. Appreciate that, Pete. All right. So we got most of the Bullet Club is here tonight. The BC Club is here. We'll be kind of going through that as well and talking about that as we go along. I appreciate y'all being here very much. I've been looking forward to this since we set up this this schedule to get this tonight going. So let me go ahead and bring my guest up here because I've been waiting a while for this one. Here is Larry Higgins of Nyobi Comics.
Nyobi.
Nyobi.
Nyobi, brother.
What's up?
You know, man, I'm running campaigns, I'm doing shows, I'm playing video games, you know, I'm living the dream, brother. You know?
You are absolutely living the dream. That is absolutely correct. I mean, like I said, we've got several people out here from the crew. Lunchbox Warren is here. Appreciate you being here, Lunchbox. John, I just showed you up here. Thank you, John, for being here. Giselle is here. And of course, Pete was in here as well. He said that he could see and hear me. So yeah, we got some people in here. And of course, we got Atrocity Press jumping in now.
BC.
There we go. We're getting in full swing now. So
I come with a crew, Demon Phil.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's Nyobi. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now I know you always come with a crew. You've always got, you know, plenty going on. You've got your shows that you do on a regular basis, and you've had quite a following that's building from there on that, and getting not only the following of people that are watching it, but the people that you're actually reaching out to and that are kind of drawing on to the energy that you put off of there and all. And that's kind of the first thing that I wanted to steer into on the conversation here tonight is, what does it take to be a mentor is the question that I want to go with on this. Now, I know you may be sitting over there thinking, I'm not a mentor, but you are. I mean, you definitely are. I mean, you've got Gage the Wolf that's definitely been under your wing and, you know, put his book out there for issue 1, and now he's got issue 2 that he's working on now. There's all different things that you've kind of worked with different people on there. What does it take to go ahead and get to that point where you are becoming more of a mentor and giving your advice and your world, you know, insight on everything that you've been doing on this?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, especially with Gage, you know, because initially I was with you. I was like, yeah, you know, no, I don't see myself that way, but yeah, no, he's right. There is Gage, you know. And a couple of others, honestly, but with Gage in particular, you know, that was something that we never set off to do, but because of Gage hanging out with us as often as he did, you know, it's sort of just natural to kind of adopt him and you know, teach him what we know anyway. And a lot of people will come to you, right, and they'll say they want to learn how to do this, and they want to pick your brain, and they want all the advice. But even when you give it to them, they never follow it. You know what I mean? And so Gage is one of the very few that we got to interact with that actually took everything we said. He didn't do everything we said, but he took the bulk of it, right? And at least tried it out. You know what I mean? And lo and behold, he made his first comic book and he got it out to the people. It's amazing how that works.
There you go. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up Pete on here. Said he's still pretty cute. Okay, I'll stop. Pete, I think we're going to start calling you adorable. We can call you adorable.
I'm actually 3 backers away from being officially cute on the Wheeler scale.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And that's another thing that we're going to be discussing as well. But I still want to go into like the mentor thing on here because your name has gotten out there synonymous with a lot of people who are looking for, you know, how does this work and how do people get these things to rolling and how do you get into larger scale products and getting more people interested in what's going on. Now, of course, we're not talking about, you know, Brian Polito numbers because too many people come to, you know, creators and to hosts of shows and things like that. And they're like, how do I get to that number? And it's like, time, brother, time. You got to put in the work. But with you and with what you've been doing and everything, you're coming up with, you know, consistent numbers that are up there. You're 200-300 backers, you know, on each campaign that you have out there, almost consistently on every single one, which is awesome that you're able to do that. How are you able to go ahead and pull that many people to go ahead and start following consistently on your projects that you got going?
I don't know. I think, in the case of Nyobi, I think Nyobi's got a cool look. She appeals to a lot of people, both men and women. I think, just because I've been around in certain circles for so long, probably like 9 years now, and always showcasing Nyobi, I think people have gotten used to seeing it around. You know what I mean? At least in our small niche of the internet, And so I think that attributes to her getting consistent numbers. Savage Syn, which is the new one, my fantasy comics, is a whole different beast, right? But I think a lot of people that supported Nyobi have definitely come over to give Savage Syn a lending hand, And I appreciate that.
No, I mean, it's a new IP that you're coming out with, because Nyobi has done, so well on building the brand, with that. It started out with a story that was handled with almost like kid gloves. It seemed like at first, and then all of a sudden it just blew up, and all of a sudden people were, accepting it and going with it, and going out there and trying to figure out how they could follow and back this thing more, to the point you've had how many issues of this come out currently?
In total, there's been like 9 different Nyobi stories.
Mm-hmm.
There was Nyobi 1 to 4, which was all black and white, and Avani, which was our villain one shot that came out after. That's what I considered like G1 Nyobi, if you will, right?
Right.
And G1 Nyobi was doing about $4,000 at its height, Canadian, on Kickstarter. And there came a point where we had to shift gears in order to make it financially doable. And 2 of the gears that we switched was the art, and we added color. So these were expensive gears to switch.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it paid off, right?
Yes.
We got a great artist with Samir at the time. We're with Juan Antonio now, but Dan, who provided the colors, has been with us since that day. Dan Overa. And the second we went from black and white to color and switched up the art a little bit, the Kickstarter came after that was 7,200, right? We do a Kickstarter after that, 16,000, right? Yes. Can't get any better than that. Do another Kickstarter, 24,000. Then we did the Outbreak Kickstarter, 31,000, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know where the plateau is, but it's always been growing. And so that's been epic, right? So we'll see what happens. Savage Syn is a different beast. It's doing 8,000 and change with 197 backers, which isn't nothing to sneeze at,
Right.
But it's not Nyobi. You know what I mean?
Well, and when you're developing a new IP to put out there, sometimes it has that where people are kind of looking at it going, it doesn't have the Nyobi feel, which it's not supposed to. So they're kind of looking at it like, okay, is it going to have, that much of a draw to it as Nyobi's had in the past on this? And I haven't even had a chance to read this thing. It hasn't been available to read or anything yet. But what I've seen so far of what's been released on there, it definitely has attention grabbing elements to it. Now, I'm not talking about just because it is Savage Booty, but it has other things that are involved in there as well that grab your attention. The writing is not going to be any lackluster than what you would expect from Nyobi to go to this. I can only imagine, it's even a little bit more put into this, because this is more of your sci-fi put it on here instead of more of your dystopian, correct?
More fantasy than sci-fi. I mean, this is a story about a barbarian woman, who lives on a tropical island in a tribe, and their whole island's being raided by these, essentially fishmen. And then we throw in a pirate marooned on the island in the mix of it all. And these two have to sort of work together and navigate their way through an island with a hostile environment, the scourge of the muck dwellers, that's what they're called, and other surprises along the way. So
very interesting. Now, before we delve more so into Savage Syn, I just want to go ahead and bring up one other thing, because there was a point that was brought up in your life somewhat recently.
Courtney.
Things that were going on within the comic industry that you got incredibly excited about, and the rest of us got excited about, is too. And thank you for being here, Courtney. Appreciate you being here. And that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever Ben Dunn went ahead and decided to scoop up Nyobi and decided to go ahead and start publishing that, and it lands in the stores.
Yeah, talk about a dream come true.
Yes.
Talk about a dream come true, right? That's the highlight of this whole thing right now, right? And we don't even make very much money off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still the coolest aspect of what this whole journey's been so far, is being able to be, published by a comic book company who I used to follow when I first got into comics.
Yes.
And then to be able to work with the man who runs that company and have them take what this dude in Canada does and put that out on the shelf. I'm going to be forever grateful to them. It's really cool that I remember buying the Diamond magazine when it came out with Exciting Comics 17, and there's a Randy Green, Witchblade fame. That was a cool moment too, right? His cover is what they used, for that book, and it's cool to hear that. Like people were like buying the book and taking pictures and showing them to me and tagging me on Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, but Instagram and stuff like that. It's kind of cool, man. And so that, even though it's not a lot of money, that's always been a bucket list thing, but B, that gives the extra exposure we kind of need. You know what I mean? So there are people that buy comic books that probably don't even know what Kickstarter is, but they go into the comic book shop, they walk by the rack, they pick up some new stuff, right? Nyobi now, being out there gets to be, a potential pickup by someone who knows nothing about crowdfunding, but can grab and see Nyobi. And maybe that leads them towards us, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe that leads to more sales on the rack. Either way, it's good.
And that's the way to do it, is just to build that brand that much on there, and to get to where you are now and being able to have more of a foundation on there. You've definitely got people that follow you on a regular basis on there, which is amazing. You've got a great group of a circle of, people that work directly with you or are friends with you directly on here that you can lean on at any point. They can lean on you. You can lean on them. It's just all the way around that everybody's trying to work together to build a much bigger thing by shining a light on everyone that's involved and not just one person. And that's awesome that you're able to go ahead and do that as well.
Yeah, that's just years of just sort of navigating the waters, and you know how it is in our weird world of comic books. There's all sorts of little cliques and little groups, and different areas of the map where it's who said it best. I'll tell you this, right? Pete Vass said it best. It's like the high school cafeteria. You got all these different tables of all these different cliques, right? And so you navigate through these cliques and you meet people through these cliques. Some like you, some don't. Some you work with, some you don't. All this stuff, and then by the end of the journey, then you're gonna have like your core group of guys, right? And those guys are the core group of guys I sort of met, traversing through click to click. And
that's very cool that you're, like I said, you've got a very tight-knit group, but no one in there is to the point where it's like, okay, seats taken, you can't sit here. Nobody's like that that's in the group with there. And there should be more people that are like that, and unfortunately there's not. And that kind of brings up some of the topics of discussion that come up at times where people, act that way, and they kind of get called out because they think that they're a little bit better than some of the other people. And whereas comics should be more about, being able to take people to a different reality and being able to, just sit back and relax and enjoy. Sometimes there's a lot of stress involved in the comic industry. And that brings up something that I wanted to kind of bring up on this, is that when I first got to know you, whenever I first got my peek behind the curtain, started to know who you actually were and heard about some of the things, that's whenever you were having a lot of trouble there in Canada with some things that were going on with cons and everything. And you were kind of hitting a part in your life where you were kind of like, okay, do I move forward? Do I go ahead and, hit the brakes on this one? Where do I go? So I've got to say, honestly, where you are now shows the rest of us that no matter how low you go in something, you can definitely pick up the pieces if you go ahead and work and show that you're putting the passion into your work. So I got to give you commendations on that.
Yeah, it's not even a low point. I mean, it's their fault, not mine.
Oh, exactly.
That's how I look at that situation. It sucks that it happened, I had a disagreement with a local con. I'm, not going to be attending there, but it is what it is to this day. And that was 3 years ago. You know,
Mhm.
um, I'm going to carry on. Carry on, my wayward son. And would I like to work it out with those cats? Sure, but if we don't, that's fine too. You know what I mean? Nyobi's going to keep on rocking. We're going to keep on winning. It's simple.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you've gone head to head with some of the big fish in the market, shall we say? They may be big fish in numbers, but man, do they not make it up in personality and actually humility and all that fun stuff? Actual morals. Uh, but it's funny but some people kind of classify you as the bad boy because you call people out. But sometimes you look at it going, who's calling you the bad boy? The people that you're calling out?
No
Because
one's calling me that. No one's calling me
but that just means that you're actually doing something. You're putting a light on people that they don't want to have light on them because they know that they're in the wrong.
Well, I mean, have we shaken the hornet's nest a couple of times? Yeah. But we've had it shaken on us a few times,
Right.
I think, when you're in a community, and I use the word loosely, but when you're in a community like this, it sort of polices itself, you
Hmm.
know, and you got some cats who are more, say, outspoken than others. I could be one of those cats at times, but there are others. And, between all that, that's what keeps, I think, everyone sort of in check, though.
Yes. And one thing is you've been called the Howard Stern of hosting the shows and everything.
Self-appointed.
Well, exactly. But then again, you also called me the Johnny Carson. So I find great honor in being called that. I still don't think it should be fitting because I do what I can. I'm not that big of a name in the comic industry and everything, but I do what I can. But we definitely still work well off of each other on things that we do with different pushing different campaigns that are going or different new creators that are up and coming. uh, is there something that you look for in some of the new people that you try to get on your shows, that you try to build up their name and get them out there and everything, that you really want to get them to stick as a foundation? Is there something that you look for in particular?
Well, that's not a mission of ours. We're not out there to find new guys and train them like we did Gage. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
not what we're setting out to do at all. We're just sort of focusing on us. If someone happens to come across our path and into our circle and they're cool like Gage, and everything's clicking right along, then sure, man. We'll teach them anything that they want to know, and sometimes they're going to teach us some cool shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That just works both ways, right? But I mean, we're not looking to mentor a bunch of guys or take a bunch of people underneath their wing. But if someone new does come along, we just want them to be cool. That's all.
Exactly. Now, all this is great in figuring out what drives you to do all of this. Now, as we're going to go ahead and start talking about this a little bit further into the works that you're working on right now, which is Savage Sin, or should I say Savage Booty.
Savage booty.
We're going to go ahead and bring this up on the screen so we can show it while we're talking.
Yeah.
Might as well show the pretty, because I'm not that pretty, and we need to show some pretty up here. So, Savage Sin, this is one of the covers that you got on here. Tell us a little bit about the artist that you pulled together on this, and how surreal it is to actually not only be able to reach out to them and ask them for work, but now to actually just chat with them every once in a while.
Well, I'll tell you, the artists that worked on this, they're essentially a built-in team. It's Gwendolyn and CB Zane,
Yep.
you know, and I've known them for a little while now. And they're both cool cats, and they've always been great to me. I got into CB Zane's artwork because I actually backed the book he was doing before I even really knew who he was. I just thought the book looked cool. Was called Into the Suck,
Yes.
and so was doing that and reading that, and then I discovered that he had worked with Tom Hutchinson, that sort of thing, and I reached out for him, and when I first talked to him, it's before Savage Sin. It was for Nyobi Birthright #2. Actually, he did a cover of our angelic character Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
So CB Zane's one of those guys that periodically we're going to hit up for covers. You know what I mean? And if he's available, cool, man. He always delivers. And he both of them delivered here. And out of all the covers, like this one, really stands up because she's actually in a different environment. She's swimming, you know what I mean?
Right.
And now it makes me, got to throw in a spot in the book, maybe next issue where she's swimming. We got to do it.
And it is. I mean, it's some gorgeous work that you have on there. You have some really great people that are working on these things with you on this. And this is no different on here either.
That's Eduardo Garcia. He's the guy drawing the book.
Yes.
So, I mean, what you see there is what you're getting on the inside.
Yes.
The colors for that cover is Dan Olvera. He's actually not the one coloring this book. That's handled by another man by the name of Federico. But he's doing a bang up job too. Yeah, you'll see if you take a look at the pages. But yeah, I mean, that's the style you're getting right there,
And that is absolutely gorgeous. And then you just keep going. You've got a few other, artists that are involved in this, and they've worked on other projects and some other projects within the BC as well. And this is one of them right here, is LC Freitas.
Yeah, this guy's cool, man. He's quick. He draws only in pencil, and a lot of times, it just gets colored over the pencils because his pencil line is so good that you don't really have to fuck with it much. He does a lot of detail. The guy is really good at like fantasy art and like cyberpunk like art. Like those knives, those daggers are badass. If you ever look at those things closely, like her armor is badass. Yes, the booty is there, but that's not even like probably the coolest parts of that picture. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I definitely noticed the detail, especially in the knives, was one thing that really caught my attention first. And then, yeah, you see the other details that are in there, in the armor and the spine plate and everything like that as well. I mean, there's a lot of detail involved.
Yeah, it's a great cover. It's colored really, really nice. Again, Dan Olvera doing the colors on that.
And then, of course, we have Nyobi Outbreak. Now, this one, we know this artist pretty well and has done quite a bit of work for you and is continuing to do so, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so what you're looking at there is from Nyobi Outbreak, and that was done by Fern Cord, the lead artist of Mary Machine Gun.
Yes.
And that is Cinder, one of the new characters in the book. And that's an add-on in the Savage Sin campaign.
Yes.
We got 10 of those, so I figured I'd throw them out there and see if whoever missed out on that can get it.
I did not miss out. I got my copy. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, that was sort of like a cover that kind of flew underneath the radar. I mean, it's a character's first appearance, and it's her first appearance on a cover. I figured people would want that one because she's going to be pretty epic coming up.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's definitely a hot cover. I mean, pun intended, shall we say? But and then you go to this one here, which is R.B. White's contribution on here, and I like this one because it has so much flexibility to the cover. I mean, where did this idea come up from? Was this something that you came up with and gave some ideas on this, or did he come up with it and you just kind of tweaked it a little bit? How'd y'all do this?
R.B. White is almost like he's almost got carte blanche with me, and I say almost. There's a couple of times where like he'll show me something and I gotta change it, but for the most part, he just gets to do what he wants. He's been doing covers with me since 2016, ever since Nyobi #2, and he always delivers. So I trust him with whatever he wants to do. So I mean, I didn't give him any guidance with this. He just whipped it up and showed it to me. Like, yep, that's it. Like go with that. And he colors I think himself, and he always does a nice job. He knows what the drill is, right? I mean, I love the armored boots he's got on her. I love the bracelets. I love the daggers. The cape is cool. It's almost got that Spawn flow with the rips and in the sort of pastel background. It all looks good.
Oh, it does. It definitely does. And then you go to, I mean, you immediately see the look on this one. You know exactly who the artist is from just looking at the picture on this. This is something that's really cool because this takes me back to like 80s cartoons is the style this looks like.
Yeah. Where you're recognizing this style, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, is Bruce Timm, right? So yes. Bruce Timm of the Batman animated series and Justice League cartoons and all that fun stuff. It's definitely got that vibe to it. And that's Joel Souza, And I love the cartoony look. I like showing my characters in different styles. You know what I mean? So that's a pretty cool cover. Yeah, I got it.
Is. It's awesome. And I want to say before we go ahead and keep moving forward on this right here, the title that you got on here, the way that you got it set up on the front,
right.
I love the way that you got that. It is so
you dig that? Yeah, you're the first person to talk about that. So that's cool. That's that's the numbering box that we're going to use, because we didn't know if we were going to put like Savage Sin in like a number 1 right beside it, or what. Russ Cassidy came up with that idea. And so Russ is sort of the guy that runs Nyobi behind the scenes as far as getting us ready for print and doing some of the interior credits for the covers and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he came up with the number box, and we wanted it to look like, sort of like old school Marvel number box. And
Yes,
it looks cool, man. I think that's a really, like, you're gonna see Nyobi books with that coming up as well, like in the future. I really like that.
like I said, it's just so simplistic. It really draws your eye to it, but not to take away from the art itself. So I mean, it works perfectly.
Yeah, no, you're gonna be seeing that on all the books going forward. I like that.
And then this one, I know this is one that as soon as you locked this one in, you had some serious excitement going on, because this is one of your bucket lists, artists that you want to get on board. And it's very cool because he frequents the show now quite often.
Weirdly,
He's a very personable person. He just enjoys getting up there and just chatting with everybody, and it's very cool.
Yeah, so John Stinsman is the name that we're talking about here, and I, know him from his work on Evangeline, right? That was sort of a big jam of mine back in the day. I was buying Evangeline, Witchblade, Darkchild, sort of all those old school Maximum Press, Top Cow books. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Eating it alive, And I had reached out to John. It was, months back now. I was reading through Evangelina I picked up on the cheap, right? And I'm looking at the credits. And I'm seeing John's name. And I'm like, I wonder, what's he doing? Because there was the same thing I did with Randy Green from Witchblade, right?
Right.
And Randy really wasn't drawing comic books at that time. He was doing more sort of like advertisement art, I believe, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got him to do a cover for us. And it was sort of the same thing with John. John was just sort of doing his own thing, personal commissions and some other outside work. And it's like, but are you doing comics? And
right,
I'm gonna do an Nyobi cover first, and then after that, the Savage Sin cover. But we won't see his Nyobi cover till Nyobi Outbreak number 2. So even though this came after, this is what we're gonna crowdfund first.
And the cool thing too to put on this, if I'm not mistaken, this is an homage to his Evangeline, correct?
Evangeline number 3. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were wondering what we're going to do with the cover, and I'm like, well, let's have her fight, one of the muck dwellers, beachfront sort of battle, because I wanted it to be, not all the covers need to be, pinups, right? Like I actually wanted, some stuff to do with the story, right?
Right.
And so, we talked about, homage covers on sort of like a back stream that we do that's sort of off air.
Mm-hmm.
And we got talking about like maybe doing an Evangeline homage, right? And then that idea morphed into this. So it's like, yeah, no, actually, let's do that, John. That sounds like a great idea. Let's, take one of your covers from back in the day and redo it with Savage Sin. I said, that sounds like a blast.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we did.
And it came out great. I mean, it's awesome looking. And then another thing I want to point out is that if you look at the armor that's on here, it is still consistent with the other, artwork that's out there. So the armor is not changing.
It's not changing too much, right? There's differences in all the pieces, right?
Yeah, there's nuances in there, but it's not anything where you look at it going, that's not even the same person there. No, it all has tie-ins to it.
Yeah, I mean, her official look really is what we see on cover A, because that's what we're going to see in the book, right?
Yes.
But all these variants are pretty. Oh man, here we go. Yeah, so what you're seeing there is her official look in the pages,
Yes.
And that again was drawn by Gerardo Garcia, colors by Federico, and they, this is part of some of the action sequences that are in the book, and goddamn, they did a good job.
Oh yes, and I do have to give you props because again, and you kind of skipped around on it just a moment ago whenever you were talking, saying that you didn't want to have, too much on the cover that doesn't have to do with the actual story itself. And you definitely pride yourself on, there's a lot of stuff that happens that's on the cover that you'll see at some point, somehow, some way inside of the book, with the exception of the one in the water, which we will see in the future now.
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh, Max. Yes.
Yeah, look at the porn. Yes. That's it.
Yes, exactly. Oh, you guys are awesome. but it's gorgeous inside as well as out. So again, to bust that myth, and Larry's going to help me out with this on this one too. If you take the books whenever you buy them and you get them in, and you're looking at that cover and it's all gorgeous, and you just want to shine it up and put it on the shelf and never look at it anyway, you can actually open these things up and they have more art and even some words in there that make some sense to a story. That's just busting that myth. You don't have to think it's just a piece of art to put on the shelf.
Yeah, no, it's all true. One of the cool things that we got to do was CGC a bunch of books. I might show you those in a bit.
Yes, I saw some of those. The post you did, yes.
Another great shot here. Here we got Syndara. That's the character's name, aka Syn, right? So for the Savage Syn. So Syndara here is, she's neck deep in combat. She's fighting these the Scourge, and she's about to stomp on one of their heads.
Yes. And
Kobayashi Maru.
Art Victim went ahead and put in here. I love seeing Stensman in streams lately. His work is stellar. The foil on the water is going to be great looking.
Yeah. That's we're gonna foil back cover. That's the only one that's gonna have the foil treatment, but it's gonna look slick, man.
Yes.
Another great action sequence here. I love like that left shot where she's coming out of like the 3 different panels. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, good stuff, man.
I mean, and the panels are gorgeous because they're not your standard, 9 panels, got to stay within the lines. It actually kind of bleeds over just enough to where it actually kind of puts you in the middle of whatever's going on.
Well, I'll tell you, they're delivering what I asked for, because when I write a script, I don't do the Marvel style. I do the full plot, which means I'm pretty much directing every scene. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're nailing it. And the reason why I think they're doing that is because I also make a video that no one can see but them, where I actually go through the entire script and talk about what I'm looking for. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
And they find that helps them quite a bit.
That's taking some serious, you take it very serious on there on exactly how you want to kind of convey what you want to have on there, because a lot of times whenever you have it in print, it's hard to go ahead and have the artist convey that exactly how you're thinking it should be coming out.
Yeah, and they still get the play around it and put their spin on it, right? And I always tell them, if something doesn't work, feel free to change it. Just let me know what you're changing in case I gotta modify it, something in the script.
Max says, "Show us the video."
What video? Oh, no. No. No, only Juan and Dan and Eduardo get to see those.
It's locked up behind a paywall.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told anyone, but that's what I do. Yeah, I make a video, and it's almost like an off air where I go through, I share the script on screen, I read the script, and I elaborate more on it, and that's what I do.
So, I mean, you've got a great project that's going on here. You are so close to hitting that mark that you named as cute for a reason.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give us the short version of the backstory on that, because we need to know why comics are only, cute and sexy if they hit certain marks.
I thought you were a no drama show, Phil.
I'm starting to branch out and a little.
Oh, look, the story is simple. That we had a couple of people, roll into the community, and they try to set up a crowdfunding site of their own. It was called God, what was it called? Someone out there remembers.
Oh, it's been a while.
Anyway, this thing existed. It was ran by a guy by the name of Mike Wheeler, who was a really shady cat to begin with, and got even shadier as this sort of site went on. Long and the short of it was, it ended up being a complete scam.
Yes.
A few of us, kind of caught on to that really quick, and we end up, exposing them for it. And one of the things that Mike said, as an insult to me was, if you only have 200 backers on Kickstarter, you're irrelevant. I mean, basically insulting me and anyone else that tries to do this. Basically, if you're not selling, like anyone on in a video to explain this, but basically, if you're not Todd McFarlane selling comics in the millions, you're a fucking nobody, right?
Yeah.
And it's pissed me off, But the longest story is they had a site, and they lost their Stripe payment. And so the way you would get paid was you had to go through Mike's personal PayPal account for all transactions. Yeah, that wasn't happening.
Right.
And once that became apparent in public, they quickly went away.
Exactly. And the thing that I enjoyed the most from that entire thing was the fact that you took something that would have been a negative against the industry and you went, you want to see 200 to 300 backers? Let's show you. And you keep hitting those and you make a big deal about it. You're like, oh, look at that. We're cute. Oh, look at that. We're only four.
Oh, I'm going to rub it in his face till the end of time.
Oh, yeah.
And I told him that. He ripped me off money too, right? So
yep.
He never paid me back. And I'm just like, you're going to be the butt end of my jokes until I get bored of it. And I ain't bored of it yet. So
exactly. And you were, like I said, you were so close to getting that cute, mark on there. So you can go ahead and show that off.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're so close again, because once you hit that, it almost seems like you get enough energy right behind that one when you return cute that you automatically turn sexy pretty quick afterwards.
Yeah, right? That's the transition though. You know what I mean?
If people don't understand the actual connotation of what we're talking about, they're going to be listening to this right now going, what is he talking about there?
Yeah, inside baseball, but it's all good, man.
It's all good. You just have to rewatch the whole thing. You're okay.
Yeah, it's fine. We're all fine now. How are you? No, I mean, you get people like that come around and we'll sniff them out. Don't worry,
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you've come up with Savage Syn. Of course, Nyobi is your main IP that you're working with and everything. Is there something else that you have on your bucket list that you're wanting to maybe think about going and branching out into for something new?
Comic book wise, yeah.
Yes. That you can talk about, of course.
I can talk about anything. Whether they're really going to happen or not remains to be seen. But we always got ideas of things that we want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I'm trying to build towards is a team book.
Mm-hmm.
So
that would be awesome.
Basically, Nyobi would be on a team with, not Cinder, but Sybil and Catcall and possibly Ariel and a couple of other characters that we made, almost like basically our female version of the X-Men.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That's what I'm sort of building towards. That's why you're seeing a lot of new characters show up on my books right away, because we're introducing them pretty quickly, trying to get them into the fold. We're going to do some backstories on some of them, but eventually, my idea is to, have a team book, and that team book will probably just come out every now and then the main thing will still be like the Nyobi title, and then Savage Syn will just be something sort of on the side.
There you go. Now, are you still doing the conventions up there?
No.
So you're not doing any?
COVID happened, and then we don't get many conventions anyway. So like the one I had dealings with, we're not friendly. So no, not doing nothing.
So you're doing all of this by way of online presence and building this off of that, correct?
100% it's online now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing to bring up right there, because there are a lot of people that argue saying the fact that, you have to be convention worthy or, you're not going to be able to be successful in what you do. And it's not a matter of, there's no formula for any of this. It's a matter of what you put your passion into and how much passion you put into it to get the work done, to get to where you are, which is shown by, what Larry's done with Nyobi and now with Savage Syn as well.
Yeah, I never made a lot of money at those cons anyway, though. That's why it's not, like financially a big worry. I make a little bit of money, but it's not like the Kickstarters, The more or less that, going to those was for the social aspects of it. The fun, meeting other artists, writers, getting books signed, getting drawings done, shopping around, networking, maybe some drinks later. I mean, it was the social aspect of cons that I liked, It wasn't like, there was a lot of money in it for me. There was some, but not a lot.
And Pete says that Nyobi was at New York Comic Con last year and we'll be there again this year too.
Yeah. Well, Pete being in New York gets access to some of these great shows, and he's been more than generous by having us on his shelf,
Yes. And cons for publishers are about meeting artists and getting eyes on the project and the book. I absolutely agree. It's the networking that goes on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd gladly go back if we can work it out, but I'm doing fine without it,
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and it is. Like, I wanted to bring up that is definitely something that some other people may have hit that same brick wall and been like, well, I guess this isn't for me, and they would have gone ahead and jumped ship. You almost took it like, you want to see what I can actually do, and then really lit the fires on that one, which is awesome because you took off with this thing and you haven't slowed down since.
I always saw the potential in it, though. Like, you know, it's cliche, right? The saying, but you gotta sort of like believe in yourself because no one else is sort of going to do it, you know.
Mhm.
And I just knew she was cool, you
Yes.
know.
No, I mean, absolutely. It's definitely a character that is worth following. Whenever you first came out with the original Niobe a few years back, was it 2020? Whenever you came out with the first one on crowdfunding?
No, my first crowdfunder was in 2015.
Okay, I'm talking about the newest one. Uh,
Well, Birthright, which is when
Birthright.
we
Yes,
started, like, you know, what I'll call G2 Niobe, the start
yes,
of that. Yeah, that was
yes.
2020.
Okay, because that's whenever I got started on that, and I asked you if you would be okay with me doing an online review of it,
Yeah.
and I was so overwhelmed with how much was
Well,
coming
I'll never
out.
forget what you said about it either, because it was the funniest thing I ever heard.
Which
You were
part?
like, you said, this got all three things that I normally don't like. It's got
Oh,
drama,
yes,
it's got religion,
and
and
politics.
what was the other one?
Politics.
And politics,
Yep.
right? He says this book's got all three of that in spades, but
Yes.
yet it's so good.
Yes.
There's some statement like that. It was fucking funny, dude.
Yes. It broke my four rule policy on there. Three of the four rules being broken on there, but it was so worth it. I mean, it was like I said, I was not expecting what was going to be, taken from that. And of course, I always, whenever I do reviews, I always read it the first time just to read it, go through it. Second time, I go through it to delve deeper into certain areas of there. And the third time, I go through for the actual quality, of the book and look for, page quality, panels, artwork, things like, and really kind of, pull it apart that way for the review. And with yours, it was so enjoyable that I don't remember how many times I read that thing, but I almost had that thing memorized by the time I did it.
It's a cool story. I mean, I took a lot of chances doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know how easily I could have been burned at the stake for doing a story that's centered around, and I'm just going to say it right here, I'm not, around abortion. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Hot topic, right? It was a hot topic then. It's even a hotter topic now, um, and let alone have that book get published, But here's the thing: the reason why that story worked and the reason why it never, became a problem for me is because I wrote it down the line, man.
Mm-hmm.
You had Niobe sticking up for pro-choice. You had Ariel, sort of the religious characters, sticking up for pro-life, and
Mm-hmm.
neither one of them win. You
Right.
know, everyone loses in this scenario.
Yes.
If you never read Birthright, you need to check it out. Like seriously, that is probably one of my favorite stories I've ever done.
It was. I mean, it was, and it surprised me how much I enjoyed it because, like I said, it broke the rules that I set up on there, but it didn't do it to the point where it was like you weren't writing in there saying you have to think this way. It was more of a no one wins. That's you exactly said that just a while ago. Whenever you said no one wins in this, because you really don't.
No, and you often don't in these culture wars.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now you've been doing this now. You said for about 9 years, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've been, going along, getting a bigger head of steam as you move along here recently with some things. You're in Diamond, you're being published, over there with Ben and everything, and
Yeah.
working further with that. What is something that you're looking forward to? What is one of your big goals that you want to look forward to for next year that you definitely want to hit? What is something that you're just shooting for?
Um, when it comes to the publishing part of that, right? Antarctic Press doesn't take work until it's complete.
Mm-hmm.
So with Niobe, we're only part one into a 3-part miniseries. Or sorry, 4-part miniseries. So it's going to be a little while before Outbreak gets published by AP. Probably a good year or two. You know what I mean? Easy. So there really isn't going to be much happening with Niobe on the publishing side until all of our work is complete, right? Because
Okay.
right now they're not. Niobe Origins got published because it was a one-shot.
Right.
It was a self-contained story. But when they're not self-contained stories, AP wants to wait till the story is wrapped up, right?
Right.
So we got to do that. So these books take a while to make and take a while to come out. So it's going to be a year or two before we see Niobe published by AP again, unless it's going to be the Niobe Penguina story I'm working with that me and Ben Dunn are doing our versions of, which we can actually talk about that a little later. That's sort of like the only exception to that. That will probably get published and out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Savage Syn also is a 3-part miniseries. So I'm pretty sure they'd be interested in taking a look at that as well. But again, it's got to be complete, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that sort of wraps up the publishing side. You know, we might publish Nyobi Penguina when I get it done. And Ben is doing his own version of it, right? So there's actually going to be 2 Nyobi Penguina stories out there. Mine and then Ben's. And they're both completely different things. And they're both going to be crowdfunded. And, you know, I happen to know, you know, Ben happens to know someone that works at AP. Let's just put it that way. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Him. So,
yeah, exactly.
So, you know, good chance that will be out there. Kickstarter side, really, it's the way this is working. It's going to be Savage Syn as we're doing right now, followed by, and you know, you sort of get to have a sneak peek at this, followed by the Nyobi Cosplay Edition Kickstarter exclusive. Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing a campaign in between campaigns, right? Where we're going to be offering a reprint of some Nyobi books, but they're going to come as a special edition variant cover of Nyobi cosplaying as some of my favorite characters in comic book history. You know, starting with the X-Ladies.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That would be very cool. Now, I want to bring this up real quick because Pete brought up on here that his booth number on there, Fat Guy Inc. For an artist, it's more about selling his stuff. He'll be doing 20 this year. Pre-COVID was doing 40 a year. I'm assuming that's cons that you're talking about on there. I want to give Pete props on this, and I'm sure because I know you do the same thing on your show all the time. But Pete works his ass off.
Oh, yeah.
Being an artist.
Oh, yeah. It's probably working right now.
Exactly. I mean, every time I see him, it's constantly Pete's hand that usually comes up on the show, not Pete. So he's always working.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to give him props on what he does on there and what he works on and how well he does it. So I'm going to tell you right now, and Larry will tell everybody the exact same thing. If you're looking for particular artists on some things, shoot a message over to Pete. Let him know that you're looking for certain things on there, and y'all see if you can work something out on there and see if he's a good fit for things on there. He will work his ass off for you on the things. But if you want commissions done, that is definitely somebody you want to shoot over there too, because he does some amazing commissions as well. So
yeah, he's working on a ton of stuff right now. Like I know he is.
Oh yeah, exactly. And Pete, I just want to let you know that kind of makes up for all of the bad stuff I've ever said for you. So now we're even, right?
Even Steven, man.
We all mess with each other. Everybody has to understand. So, but I got to ask you, if you were able to go back to Larry 9 years ago, or let's say 10 years ago, and give yourself advice moving into the industry and starting to really build the brand and get set up on the foundation and everything, what advice would you give yourself?
Save up $5,000 before you start.
That sounds about right. To have at least, yeah.
Because we started Nyobi with no money.
Yep.
You know, it was off the backs of 3 guys who put together a comic book of their own goodwill, you know. And the money we made came from the one convention that we did, which was $600 in sales. So we each took away a pot of $200.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, they went on to do other things, right? But I still had Nyobi, you know. And then that's when Nyobi 2 came with Steve Boyu. And then, you know, we did the rest of the black and white issues, me and him.
Yeah.
And then we went into G2.
Yep.
But I mean, Nyobi started with 3 guys from my little small town here and just did it to see if we could do it, you know?
Awesome. And I mean, you've definitely proven that you have been able to do that and keep moving forward on this as well. One last question that I want to ask kind of leading into the end of this is, what is one piece of advice that you definitely want to give anybody who's looking into getting into the industry and starting up with things besides saving up $5,000?
Well, I don't know. I think the money is important, like, because, you know, a lot of people come in thinking they're going to make money right away. And quite often you don't. Quite often you lose money. I mean, the biggest advice I would give is this. You got to start listening to shows like this to sort of hear from the horse's mouth how some of this stuff works. Right? It doesn't have to be my show. It doesn't even have to be Phil's show. There are plenty of shows. And if you go watch these creator shows and listen to them just give advice and just talk about shop, you're going to pick up on things, right? It may not all make sense right away, but the more you start hearing some stuff and more you start hearing certain terms and how they're applied, it's all going to slowly start together. And then, of course, you can just ask questions because a lot of these shows are live. Ask your questions in the chat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I mean, in order to learn this, you got to pick the brains of guys that do it. That's the advice I give, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I could not agree more, because honestly, I wouldn't be coming out with my stuff that I'm working on right now if it weren't for people like you and people like, you know, Tom and some other ones that I've not only sat out there just absorbing as much as I can by, you know, listening, but interacting. If you interact, you learn so much more that way. And actually, it looks like we have got, you sent some art over, so I can show this off now. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's give them something to look at. Boom.
Ooh.
So when we talk about the Nyobi cosplay edition, we're not, excuse the language, we're not fucking around. You know what I mean? We're coming in hot, man. We got 3 of my favorite ladies of all time here. We got Nyobi cosplaying as Magic. We got Nyobi cosplaying as Psylocke. And of course, we got Nyobi cosplaying as the Dark Phoenix. These were all drawn and colored by the team I talked about earlier, which is Greg Bo Watson and Gwen, you know. This just got handed in to me a couple of hours before the show started here with you, you know.
Yes.
So each one of these is going to be its own separate cover. But as you can see, they all connect. They're connecting. There's a connecting cover set. So you're going to want them all, but you can get them separately. We'll have covers without the logos, cover with the logos, and we're probably going to foil that Phoenix one.
Yes.
And then, you know, along with that campaign, we're reissuing our Morgan Bailey cosplay cover, so people can get that in their hands if they, you know, didn't get it the first time, because it goes along with the theme of cosplay, right? Giselle is doing a couple of Nyobi chibi stickers that has her cosplaying as Dazzler and Shadowcat from the X-Men. Nice. So it's going to be a fun campaign, you know. They are reprints of stories we've already done. So don't get me wrong, this isn't like a Nyobi cosplay story. These are, you know, works that's been done with new wrapping paper, but it's very cool wrapping paper, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they're exclusive to Kickstarter. I won't be selling these anywhere else. So.
Oh yes, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to seeing that whenever it comes up, because the connecting covers is one of those things. You get a hold of these OCD people like me, and it's like I can't go any direction except for to get all of them.
Oh, you think that's it though? I got more to show you, Demon Phil.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Trust. I know you've got quite a bit more over there. But Larry, man, I appreciate you being on and being able to go ahead and discuss everything tonight and getting to know you a little bit more, and the project that you got going on with Savage Syn. I'm going to go ahead and bring up, we've got the description has the links inside of there as well, but I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. You don't have to memorize it directly off screen or screenshot. But Larry's going to go ahead and let you know right now why you need to go ahead and go over there to the campaign and support Savage Syn right now.
Well, the reason I hope is that you see it and you think it looks cool, you know, which it is. If you like Red Sonja, if you like Tarna from Heavy Metal, you like a dark fantasy vibe, you know, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, this is probably going to be for you. And you know, the reason why you should support it is so we can keep it going. You know, that's the reason.
Yes.
Doesn't get any more honest than that, you know?
No, not at all. I mean, and definitely get over there, check it out. We always have the 2 hashtags now on the show, which I talk about every single time, which is, first of all, hashtag power of the finger, the correct one if you can. Hit that share button. Not, you know, everybody understands that not everybody can financially back everything that's out there. It's just not going to happen. But it costs you absolutely nothing to hit that share button and get this in front of other eyes who may be able to go ahead and financially back as well. Plus, if you are able to financially back and you hit the share button as well, you trigger another algorithm that you're maybe not aware of as well.
That's it.
So there's hashtag power of the finger that leads into increasing the hashtag voice of the indies. And the voice of the indies was actually something that, Larry, you gave to me. You called me that at one point. And I thought about it and I was like, okay, I can't take this title on as myself. It's a conglomerate. It's got to be like the voice of the indies is a conglomerate. It's everybody working together to go ahead and shine the spotlight even brighter into the indies industry of the comics and everything like that. And that's the way I've really been pushing on that. And as much as I really appreciate and am honored in you calling me that as well, I think it's an even bigger honor to go ahead and use that for the conglomerate of everybody out there working together, because that's the overall goal of what we're trying to do, because there's more than enough for everybody to go ahead and share out and get a piece of the pie on here. Not everybody has to fight over, one particular area of this. So increase the voice of the indies together is all you have to do.
That's all you got to do, man.
We keep it as simple as possible on here, but do what you can. I always give the challenge on there. What are you doing, or what have you done to increase the voice of the indies today? This is not by any means me pointing the finger, calling anybody out, anything like that. It just means, how difficult is it to go ahead and share something out? How difficult is it to create a post every once in a while about something that you think would be something cool to, see out there that other people would like to see? You never know where it's going to hit on there. And keep in mind to always, always, always reach out to your artists, your creatives, all these people that are working on this tirelessly on things, and just check on them, see how they're doing, see, let them know that you're enjoying their work. You never know whenever it could definitely be the one thing that would push them to where they're back onto what they need to be working on, rather than going ahead and dropping everything and saying it's not worth it.
I'll say this, Phil, while I got you on here, what I like about your show, especially this show in particular, is the one-on-one sort of interview. You know what I mean? Because where my show and a lot of other shows, they're all ensemble shows, right? You got a bunch of people on there, and sometimes I find like the one-on-one interview is is better, in some ways. There's a sense of getting some information out and asking some questions and having a real discussion, as opposed to say 8 or 9 guys all trying to get something in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that's the strength of your show, is the one-on-one sort of breakdown interviews. And I would say definitely keep doing these.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. And that's why I have the other show that I do, which is called Positive Influence. That's the one that's pre-recorded, where I do the one-on-ones. Hell of a Show is more of the panel show, but this was a special show. And because I have you on as a guest, I couldn't do it as Positive Influence. I have to do it as Hell of a Show. You have to come on Hell of a Show. You have to come in with a fire and everything on this one.
I smoked a joint right before I came on this one. So if I didn't have my usual energetic stuff, that might have been why.
No, that is awesome. And Art Victim is on here saying, great tips, Phil. Well said. People should look in and check their creatives. The algorithms aren't always nice. No, they're
not, man.
Nice.
But you got to watch shows like this if you want them to keep happening. You got to like and comment. Here's the thing, guys. Like, you can like the show all you want and even share it, but it's the comments. Just like in Facebook, if people start commenting on your post, that's when people start to see it. YouTube is the same way, I find.
Yes.
So write some comments down below, because that's what really gets the algorithm moving.
And it's not always about the algorithm. It's also about just going ahead and motivating your fellow creative. Myself, with the shows and everything, I know every time I see something like what Art Victim just said, great tips, Phil, that actually motivates me to go to my next show that I'll be doing on the next scheduled time. Whereas if you get a show and it's kind of a dry show where you don't see anything on there about they're really enjoying the content or something, it's almost like you kind of go into your next show, but you're like, I got to try harder, or something went wrong. It's just it's the humanity factor that's in there.
When is the next show?
The next show is actually on Monday. Will be our regular scheduled Hell of a Show live show. And this Monday is going to be, of course, we do panel shows on there. This Monday is going to be a big one. This Monday is going to be a publisher panel show.
Oh, cool.
So we've got some publishers on here, 4 of which will be on. And that way we can kind of bounce around some perspectives and some topics around there and see what we can come up with from publishers that are going to be on. So it's going to be a fun one to do.
There you go. In.
And yes, Tom Hutchison of Big Dog Inc. will be on there. Mr. 15 will be back.
There you go.
He is looking to break all kinds of records on that, and so far he owns the records, and he's not even breaking them. So
appreciate you having me on, Demon Phil.
Hey, absolutely. It has been my absolute pleasure and honor having you on here, Larry. Looking forward to seeing what else you're doing in the future. And I am definitely going to be reaching out to you once things move along just a little bit further on my book side to go ahead and get your input on there as well, because I greatly value what you bring to the table over there.
Appreciate that. We'll do.
All right. So from everyone over here at Hell of a Show, everyone over there at Nyobi, first and foremost, you want to go over there to Nyobi. You want to go ahead and sub up on the YouTube channel. Get over
Yeah,
there.
we're playing Diablo 4 tonight.
What's that?
We're playing Diablo 4 tonight, Phil.
There you go. There you go. But you want to get over there so you don't miss out on any of the great content he's got going on over there at any given time. Same thing with mine. If you'll sub up on mine, that way you don't miss out on any of the content, the creators that I bring on, anything that's coming up in future shows. You never know what's going to happen. And aside from that, you know what I always say at the end of the show that I love saying? Keep it indie, y'all.
Boom.